I'm Stacy.
Stacy.
I'm Renee.
And I'm Stephanie.
How did we get the name Wild Orchid? Where did that come from?
Well, a wild orchid is a rare flower. We feel that we're kind of unique because we've known each other since we were 8 years old. We all sing lead and we write our own music.
Their image probably won't pop into the mind of someone thinking about the greatest female singing groups of all times, but this trio still made their mark. In the highly saturated and competitive 90s era, no less, while persevering through many years of industry drama. Unfortunately, the drama seemed to never end, but they eventually did. Let's find out whatever happened to American 90s pop group Wild Orchid. Their mutual love and talent for singing, dancing, and acting would bring these girls together and set them on a long, winding road to become pop stars. Renee Sandstrom, also known as Renee Sands, and Stacey Ferguson met while working on the children's musical television series Kids Incorporated in the mid to late 80s, co-starring alongside several other future stars such as Jennifer Love Hewitt and Mario Lopez. Renee's entire family was very musical and even had a band. She began performing with them from the age of 4. Stacey was very much a natural performer. She even landed an agent at the age of 8 and went on to do many television commercials as well as voiceover work. She ended up being the most popular cast member, and her tenure would last 6 years. As soon as they left the show, they decided to join forces to create a girl group. Renee's best friend from high school, Stephanie Riddell, was then brought on board. She began her entertainment career as an actress and appeared in many guest roles on shows such as Married with Children and Blossom. Now they needed a name. They originally went with New Rhythm Generation, or NRG. Another girl, Heather Hollyoak, also joined the group to make it a quartet. They then began searching for a record deal. After their first performance, Heather decided that she wanted to return to college, so she left and was then replaced by Mickey Duran. Things seemed to be moving along well until their former manager popped up with a claim that he owned the rights to the group's name. So they changed it to Wild Orchid. They also hired a new manager who just happened to be the mother of fellow Kids Incorporated alumna and toy soldier songstress Martika. 2 years later, the group signed with RCA Records. However, they also lost another member. Mickey left the group to pursue acting, leaving Wild Orchid to carry on as a trio. Finally, after 6 years of hard work, mixed in with a bunch of management issues and lineup changes, their debut single called At Night I Pray dropped in September 1996. The song only reached the number 63 position on the Billboard Hot 100. However, it gained a fair amount of airplay, which boosted the sales. Heavy rotation of the music video by MTV, VH1, and BET also helped it remain on the charts for a great number of weeks, becoming their longest-running single there. The following spring, the group released their self-titled debut album. It produced their follow-up, which would go on to be their most successful to date, called Talk to Me. The ladies had a ball promoting the album and making guest appearances on television talk shows such as Ricki Lake and Jenny Jones. They also tried their hand at hosting, popping up frequently on E's weekly celebrity news show, The Gossip Show. Not wanting to take their foot off the gas, they released their second album just a year and a half later, titled Oxygen. It produced only one single called Be Mine. They embarked on a brief promotional tour throughout the US. There was no reason for it to be anything other than brief, since at this point, their popularity had already plummeted. In a 2006 interview with Entertainment Weekly, Stacey, who was actually going by another name at this time, but we'll get into that later. Summed up what she believed was the problem from the get-go. We were uncategorizable, too urban for pop radio and too pop for urban radio. Thankfully, more hosting opportunities would come the ladies' way and give them another avenue to showcase themselves. In September 1998, Wild Orchid debuted as hosts of the Fox Family Channel's Saturday morning show, Great Pretenders, which featured chart hits lip-synced by young kids while competing for prizes. After talks of the group going back to the studio to record songs for a re-release of the Oxygen album, of course, due to poor sales of the original, they scrapped that idea and went to work on their third effort titled Fire. Again, like their second album, this one only produced one single, called Stuttering, Don't Say. The album was eventually released in June 2001 after being pushed back for a full year. This was a direct result of RCA's refusal to release it. Not surprisingly, this marked the beginning of the end of Wild Orchid as a trio. In quick succession, over the span of the next month, they had their final performance, filmed the final episode of their television show, and were dropped from RCA. Stacey would also leave the group at this time. For her, getting dropped from their label gave her the perfect out to embark on an epic journey as a member of another group and finally make her dream of solo stardom come true. Renee and Stephanie continued on as a duo for the next couple of years and returned in 2003 with Wild Orchid's final album titled Hypnotic. Not one single was released. It was available exclusively through the group's website, and it only sold an abysmal 5,000 copies online. After Wild Orchid disbanded, Renee went on to become a session singer for children's music, sing on numerous television commercials, write music, as well as act. One of her most prominent gigs was providing the singing voice for Princess Fiona in the computer-animated comedy film Shrek 2. In October 2008, she married retirement specialist Robbie Wells, and they have 2 children. Stephanie took a short break from music before getting back to it between 2004 and 2005, when she became a member of techno dance duo Fifth Element with DJ Rain. Like Renee, she's also lent her voice to the motion picture world. She can be heard on the Bratz The Movie soundtrack on 2 songs, while co-writing and co-producing many others. Also at this time, she crossed paths with Mexican-American pop duo Prima J and ended up playing a major role in kicking off their career. While a member of Wild Orchid, Stephanie had a brief marriage before eventually marrying Geffen Records president Ron Fair. She'd already known him for years as Wild Orchid's A&R guy, but nothing came of the friendship back then. They now share 4 children. In 2016, she got bitten by the reality TV bug and starred in Bravo's There Goes the Motherhood. On the show, she candidly spoke about her fears of failure and judgment surrounding singing, and that being the reason why she hasn't since her Wild Orchid days. She got the inspiration to write again from her time on the show and finally made her solo debut with the track Better Version of Me. While she was in Wild Orchid, Stacey developed an addiction to crystal meth. During her 2012 interview with Oprah Winfrey, she detailed that the addiction was sparked by the behind-the-scenes issues going on between the group and their label. She says that she became terribly unhappy as they tried to turn her into something that she wasn't. Instead of confronting the girls and telling them that she wanted out, she turned to drugs. First ecstasy, then crystal meth. By the dawn of the new millennium, Stacey had spent all her childhood actor money. Collection agencies were even after her because she had run up a pile of credit card debt. She decided to get clean after one particular frightening experience. She was suffering from chemically induced psychosis and dementia due to her drug use, and also hallucinating on a daily basis. One day, she went into a church and prayed to God that if he got her through the episode, she would stop doing drugs. He did, and she kept her promise. She went cold turkey with the help of hypnotherapy in 2001. A few months before Stacy decided to leave Wild Orchid, she would meet the man who would play a fundamental role in her future with music. A Minneapolis-based radio station hosted a concert featuring Wild Orchid and hip-hop group Black Eyed Peas. She met frontman will.i.am at the event and spoke to him about producing her solo album. That album would have to wait, though, after she officially joined the Black Eyed Peas under the stage name Fergie in 2002. Her first outing with the band was their 2003 effort, Elefunk. After reading in a magazine that actor Josh Duhamel had a crush on her, they would eventually meet in 2004, marry 5 years later, and welcome a son in 2013. With lots of production help from will.i.am, Fergie's debut solo album titled The Duchess was released in September 2006. Over the next several years, she would go on to be featured on 3 more Black Eyed Peas albums as well. 2017 would be a year of major ups and downs for Fergie. In September, her and Josh would announce their separation. The following week, she decided to finally drop her second album, 11 years after the first, titled Double Duchess. She also made her official exit from Black Eyed Peas. The following year, during the NBA All-Star Game, Fergie was tapped to perform the Star-Spangled Banner on February 18, 2018. She opted to put a different spin on it with a slow-paced, jazz-infused rendition.
That our flag was still there.
It didn't go over well, and people let her know across social media. Since then, Fergie's career has been quiet, and her public appearances have slowed down massively. Naturally, some people have assumed her absence from the spotlight must be related to that poor performance. The ladies of Wild Orchid have stayed friends over the years, and their bond appears to be solid. Stephanie and Renee even co-wrote the track Losing My Ground for Fergie's debut album. Stephanie and Fergie also lived together for several years after leaving their parents' homes. They've celebrated many special events and major life milestones with each other for a very long time. Stephanie even said in a 2016 interview with Bravo TV, "Yeah, we're forever bonded, whether we like it or not."
Let's